Good morning, everyone. My name is Martha Ward, and I'm part of your Sunday service team today on May 16th. We have a few announcements. Early Birds meets Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and on the website. Is that better? Oh yeah, that is. Thank you. Upcoming speakers on the 23rd, Kamatara will be here, and I believe that's in person. And on the 30th, Judy has found a wonderful video for us called You Are Not Your Body. Thank you, Judy. The Board of Trustees met last Wednesday, and it was decided that we are fully open and encourage you to join us in person and enjoy the hugs. We will maintain the hybrid service. Next Sunday will be Mark and Taylor's last Sunday, and we're having a going away luncheon after service. Everyone is invited and food is provided. There is a list of 17 volunteer opportunities in the social hall. Thank you, Terry, for putting that together, and any assistance that you received from other folks. Please review and consider how you can help Wellspring function. To volunteer, contact Judy at wellspringntc@hotmail.com. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage, or you may contact Martha Ward or Geneva Collins with your request. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Well, good morning on this beautiful Sunday morning. My invocation may be a little bit different this morning. Independent me had an opportunity to need support and assistance this week when my car wouldn't start because the battery was dead. And a dear friend came and rescued me. And another dear friend stayed with me until the rescue arrived. So, at the close of this year of semi-isolation, due to the COVID, I have come to the realization of how important it is for us to support one another. And it reminded me of a poem by John Donne. So as we tune into spirit and we know that this is the reason that we are here this morning, is to open our hearts and minds to ideas that lift us up and elevate us. John Donne writes, "No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thy own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee." And so it is. So read with me our vision, mission, and affirmation. keep skipping over this Song of Joy. I'm so sorry to everybody who puts this together. You do a wonderful job, and I don't mean to overlook you.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world. Sweet the rain snowfall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated, and let us read together our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. And our affirmations: I know that peace exists at the center of everything. I know that God is right where I am, and Spirit responds to me. I commune with the divine presence regularly. I open my heart and mind to the divine guidance that is always present. And so now we have our wonderful special guest music with Taylor and Mark.
Mark was just pointing out to me, we just sang Morning Has Broken, and now we're doing another morning song. This is Oh, What a Beautiful Morning from Rodgers and Hammerstein. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by, but a little brown maverick is winking her eye.
Thank you, Taylor and Mark. That was beautiful. So, the reading this morning is going to be from Rumi, and along with the same lines of what Taylor and Mark were singing, where everything is music. Don't worry about saving these songs, and if one of our instrument breaks, it doesn't matter. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. So the candle flickers and goes out. We have a piece of flint and a spark. This singing art is sea foam. The graceful movements come from a pearl somewhere on the ocean floor. Poems reach up like spindrift and the edge of driftwood along the beach, wanting. They derive from a slow and powerful root that we cannot see. Stop the words now. Open the window in the center of your chest and let the spirits fly in and out. And so it is. And this morning we have the great pleasure of having Peggy Shinn come back again. And the topic of her talk this morning is going to be Dancing with the Divine. So with music and dance, we start our beautiful Sunday morning, and so it is.
Thank you, Martha. It is a beautiful morning. I don't think I'm going to need this, and because it's as tall as I am, I'm going to push it away. I have an announcement I thought of that maybe I should make when you were talking about announcements. You all probably are aware of the fact of my involvement with the Spanish-speaking Ministries for Centers for Spiritual Living in Mexico. And last time I was here, I had a couple questions about where we're going to have our annual conference this year in Chapala in Jalisco, Mexico. And the answer is yes and no. We're going to have something in Chapala, but our convention is going to be virtual again this year. And so the public event will be the 4th, 5th, and 6th of August online on Zoom. You'll hear more about that from me, but just in order to make sure that those of you who were talking to me that had the intention and the idea that they wanted to come to Mexico for the convention this year, you'll have to wait another year, I'm afraid. Or if we have one in the winter, as soon as everything really opens up, we hope to be able to do something, even if it's not in the summertime. But you all wouldn't mind coming down there in the winter. The weather's wonderful, right? Okay, so we got that handled. My next thing is that I have had, from the winds this week and the pecan orchards blooming, some difficulties, a little bit of challenge with my voice, and I hope I will make it through the talk, but I have some things up here, and I'm going to maybe sound like Demosthenes talking through the rocks in his mouth if I have to put the cough drop in. So anyway, as Martha was saying, my theme is about dancing with the divine. Speaking of my connections there in Mexico, I've been back 3 weeks from having been there a month, and I have a participation in a WhatsApp chat. I don't know how many of you guys know what WhatsApp is, but it's extremely popular in most of the rest of the world. Online, internet-based text and messaging and video transfer and all that kind of stuff. So this group of friends of mine down there at Centers for Spiritual Living in Chapala, ever since things opened up a little bit more down there, they've been organizing every Sunday. They go to this patio of this restaurant where the live band is playing the rock and roll music from the 50s through the 70s. And on the WhatsApp chat is where they interchange with each other to talk about who's going and how many reservations to make and all this kind of thing. So every other day. In fact, this morning one came in. I'm getting these WhatsApp chats, right? And these guys are going out dancing and dining and having a great time, and I'm boohooing to myself that I'm not there and I can't go dancing with them. And there's not really opportunity much here anyway. The bars aren't open quite yet, I don't think, are they? Yeah. And I wouldn't be going to them necessarily anyhow. But I've just had this thought, well, you know, Peggy, get over yourself. You're dancing all the time with the divine, and you can choose your own joy and be the dance partner for God and allow whatever to show up at any time, anywhere, in any genre of music you might want to be dancing along with. So get over that and allow yourself to just move through this process of, you'll do that when you get back. You know, you'll go dancing again when you get back to Mexico. So I was feeling sorry for myself and realizing that I was choosing something other than my own joy. And when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, I thought, well, this has been on my mind. I'm going to do the dancing with the divine and see if we can't get ourselves into a more uplifted mood. I think that the CDC's announcement this week is probably helping some people feel a little bit better about what's going on in their world. But when I had the idea about the dancing with the divine, from the metaphors just started kind of rolling through my mind, and I'm thinking back and reflecting back on my life and elements of how the dancing would fit into the metaphor, and that just swept me off my feet and onto the dance floor. And I reflected back first on a time in my life. You all may remember the song by Ricky Byers Beckworth about, there was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all myself, and now I let go and let God, basically, is the theme of the song. And I was reflecting back on that time in my life before I found Centers for Spiritual Living or Science of Mind or Wellspring or God even. I was an atheist at that point in time. And my life wasn't working too well. And I was tap dancing as fast as I could. I felt like my dance of life was just like somebody was throwing firecrackers at my feet. I was so busy and so involved in whatever, and it just seemed like nothing was really producing the level of satisfaction or gratification that I wanted. But I don't know how many of you may have seen the movie years ago with Jill Clayburgh, but I'm dancing as fast as I can. I think that was my theme song. That was my musical background. I guess you call it playlist or whatever nowadays, back in that time frame. And ultimately, I realized that, you know, I was just taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And I wasn't even sure if I was going in the right direction. You know, it was just like, felt like my foot was glued to the floor, maybe, almost sometimes. And ultimately, it came into my world that there were other ways that I could do this. And it came to me, independent that I am, I needed help. And I needed to surrender. I needed to not be trying to do this all by myself with my own best thoughts and my own best ideas, which weren't getting me too far. You know, as Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you, right? So I decided that I needed to take some different steps. And I think this is kind of, am I spitting on this thing or something? I'm sort of hearing like this in it. So anyway, I decided that I needed help and I needed to surrender, and maybe I should explore the possibility that some other friends in my life who seemed to be getting a better life through the 12-step program were onto something, that maybe I wanted what they had. So that's what took me through the door of the dance of the 12 steps. And of course, I had to choose God as my partner ultimately. So there it was, dancing with the divine from that point in the beginning. And when you think about it, when you're dancing with anybody, you know, in any element of the physical dance requires a great deal of mixture of elements that you're working with at the same time. You have to be aware of yourself, the choices that you're making and the movements that you're choosing. You have to be aware of your partner's movements and whether that's taking you wherever. You have to be aware of the other people on the dance floor who are there with you, trying to enjoy the same music and enjoy the same good time or whatever. And you have to be aware of the space in general and your place in it. You have to be aware of the music, the rhythm, the balance of your movements, all of these things. So I started thinking about all those elements to the metaphor of the dance and realized, well, Yeah, no wonder they call it the dance of life too, because there is all of these things required to live a good life. That awareness of myself, others, space, time, rhythm, movement, guidance, and instinct are what I think comes next. It's an instinctive process, but it's a guided process when you're on the dance floor, and especially if you're dancing with a partner. Where we dance down in Mexico, we just all get up on the floor, and some people have somebody that they're dancing with, and the rest of us are just dancing with everybody. And everybody's dancing with us, but we're having a good time. So those awarenesses are just like what's required in life too, pretty much. You know, wherever I am, I'm doing that dance. But am I allowing the divine to be my partner? Am I taking in the guidance that I have to have inside in order to direct my movements outward? You know, every step we take, every move we make, you know, as the song says, is part of guidance from our interior mind and heart. And that instinct that's within me is my divinity. I need to reach inside and find that divine sometimes when I need to go back to my learning it step by step. But I also have to allow the guidance to come that comes from others. God speaks to me through others. That comes from my own prayer and meditation. You know, I think prayer and prayer is like talking to God, and meditation is like listening to God for me. That's sort of how I choose to take it. And so when I'm looking at it from the standpoint of how did I learn the dance? How did I learn this dance with the divine? Because we had to learn to dance physically too. I mean, some people probably never took lessons and they just, you know, get out and move. But most of us in this room are probably of an age where in this culture and in this country, we might have taken ballroom dancing lessons as a young person, or we might have had a friend who taught us in their living room. I can remember teaching my mother's friends the twist when I was growing up. So, you know, we've all had some of those experiences with our dance world. Some of us think we're not good dancers, and some of us think we're great dancers. And all of these things are just a part of that whole sort of dancing with the divine and following that inner guidance to direct our process outward. So it's more for me a process of being led and then having to make the choice to follow the lead. I've never been very good, I mean, aside from taking the ballroom dancing lessons, independent that I am, like Martha says, at the old sort of waltz or close dancing. And I remember going to a wedding in the 80s. It was actually a Jewish wedding, but the music was country western. And I'm not too much of a country western fan, and I never learned to do much of the dancing initially. And in the 80s, I'd been here maybe, you know, I came here in the early 70s, so I'd been here about 10 years or so when this wedding had gone on maybe. But this fellow had asked me I was single, this fellow had asked me to dance, and it was the two-step, you know, and so he kind of was teaching me how to do it. Well, I remember that one and many other times too that I'm a little reluctant to follow the lead. You know how men are taught to touch the back and make you, you know, give you the sort of clues as to what the next step's going to be, right? Well, I think I probably had that same resistance to the divine that I had to being led on the dance floor, and finally at the wedding, I got it. And I said, oh, I kind of understand now why all the Aggies here like to do this dance. It's sort of easy on the Aggie mind. Sort of, I'm better now, you know. But I remember saying that to him. And I have that same sort of resistance. So it's for me, it goes back to what are going to be the outcomes that I'm looking for. What am I actually praying for? What am I holding in the meditation? What is it that is helpful? What is it that serves? What is it that's going to be of service to me and to others? And allow that intuition to come through. But the connection with the divine as my partner on the dance floor still has to be the spiritual practices for me. Now, maybe a lot of you guys are like, you know, all prayed up all the time and everything's great and hunky-dory, but I have to remind myself to go back to those things because I'm not always that good at following the lead. And I have that reversal back to that time when I thought I could do it all myself. And I have to be reminding myself of that. So that I connect with that intuition and recognize that these same practices of meditation and prayer are no different than learning the steps to a dance that you have to practice. You have to practice it over and over again, the 1, 2, 3, 4 on the walls, right? Before your brain and body and your whole being gets it synchronized together. And those practices are the steps for prayer and meditation, holding the light as best as I possibly can. But it's about practice, 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 whether it's music, how do you get to Carnegie Hall, right? Practice, practice, practice. The spiritual practices are a big part of where I have to rely upon in order to keep myself reminded. Listening to the song on the Morning Is Broken, I was reminded of the little snippet that always comes to me at the end about God's recreation of the new day. And my first instinct is always to say God's recreation in my brain. Fortunately, I don't always end up singing it that way, but to recognize that the pronunciation in that case is recreation. But I kind of think that God's recreation is God's recreation, right? And so I want to be reminded. I want my mind to be made new again, like the new day being talked about in the song, that we can have a new day anytime. Right now, it's 11:30, right? We have a new day right here. We just have to choose. And so for me, sometimes I feel like this dance with the divine, if I'm not really focused on the lessons and the steps and learning and being open, like I guess it's your affirmation at the end about being open-minded and open-hearted. I feel like the story about Ginger Rogers. We're probably old enough to remember who she is too, right? That she's always doing it backwards and in high heels. And what I have to remember to do is to ask for help. I have to be asking for help to be led. And I have kind of a general way of asking for help, and I have some specific ways of asking for help, and then I have some ritual daily that I try to remember to do. So my first generalized way is I have this phrase that a friend of mine taught me that was one of her mantras, and I've adopted it as mine over the years. Lead me where you need me, and show me in ways I cannot possibly misunderstand. Because I got to get the dope slap, So that part about I cannot possibly misunderstand is a definite important element of that for me. The more specific kinds of ways that I do it are, the Course in Miracles, and Marianne Williamson particularly is probably my greater teacher from the Course in Miracles and her books and talks and so forth, is to ask each morning, where shall I go? What shall I say, and to whom? And then I want to ask myself in the moment, in that specific moment as my day is unfolding, and I'm checking in with the intuition, I'm checking in with the guidance that's coming to me, the whole formation of my day and the activities. Nothing happens by mistake. No one comes into my path that isn't intended to be there. These are all elements that I choose to believe are a part of my existence and purpose on this planet. So to be unconscious about that isn't always the best way. I want to try to stay conscious about what's going on, what's in the moment, how do I stay in the moment. And so I ask myself that in the morning. And then as I go through the day, I try to check in with it to say, what's actually happening here at the spiritual level. The thing that I'm always hopeful of in any given moment is not to be looking for what's in it for me in the moment, but what's in me for it. And if I can stay centered in that concept, then I know that I can test myself. I can see, am I expanding? Am I contracting? Is this the right way to move? Is this the right way to take this? Am I dancing in the right rhythm? Do I have the speed? All of these things are a piece of the dancing metaphor that I bring back to that as I started reflecting on it. And recognizing that this is all about staying joyful. What's going to help me be joyful? I do things like muscle testing with my body as a pendulum, things that will help me get that guidance and be able to move into the next level of whatever it is that's going on and wherever it is I am. So I'm asking my divine dance partner, show me the steps. You know, help me get out of this Ginger Rogers in high heels backwards and feel confident and comfortable and open to whatever the moment has to say to me, for me, because it's all for my good. I know that. Even the Bible says that, you know, that it's all for our good. And whatever my resistance is, isn't so much for my good or that of others. So my specific questions get answered kind of by my ABCs that I was teaching you about, and the last time I was here to talk about the spiritual ABCs, to become aware, to breathe into that awareness, give myself the wiggle room to make a choice that's conscious, rather than that busy tap dancing as fast as I could person from years back, where I can get to the place of acknowledgement of myself and others, as I was talking to you about last time I was here. Namaste up, you know, get that part of it back into the process. So the checking in on the expansion and the contraction, and will it be helpful? Will it be of service? And then, is it mine to do? I have one of these. I think the psychologists call it the savior complex or something, where I'm real quick to jump into the middle of something because I think I can help, or I can do it, or this is, I've got the brain power, I got the whatever power, I've got the networks, I can help, whatever. And so sometimes it's real important for me just to stop long enough to say, is this mine to do or to be? Either way. So these are the ways that I have kind of rediscovered in thinking about how this metaphor of dancing with the divine and dancing through my life works out. And they might help you, they might not, but what I suggest nonetheless is that you choose to connect and follow the lead that shows up for you. Follow whatever your guidance is that comes through. Sometimes I know I am not alone in this. I don't want to listen to the instinctive message that's coming through to me. It's like, that wasn't what I wanted to hear. God, should I rephrase the question, or could you tell me in a different way, or is that the only answer? And I will push back against that divine lead. Step on his toes on the dance floor, But I really encourage you to think about dancing with the divine and take this into your life. Connect at the level of guidance and intuition that's going to help you know what the next step is, help you understand where you're being led, and be willing to follow. Fill up your dance card. Don't sit it out. You guys probably all heard that country western song years ago about I Hope You Dance. Leanne Womack, I think, was the name of the gal. So fill up your dance card and don't sit it out. Allow your mind to be a part of the great universal mind, and your feet to follow the rhythm of that universal divine dance. So that when you ask yourself, or I ask myself, am I giving God a good time on the dance floor? The answer will be yes, right? And I'd like to leave you with the words of William Purdy, who was an educator, but he's the one who crafted this line about you got to dance like nobody's watching, and love like you can never be hurt. Sing like nobody's listening, and live like it's heaven on earth, which we know it is, and so it is. Amen. So any of you who want to, you can get up and dance to the next song that I don't know what they're going to play or what they're going to do, or somebody was playing the piano here earlier too. So we can have our own little dance. And maybe next week, is it next week you're having the luncheon for Mark and Taylor? Yeah. Get that vibe up and send them off to the spirit of music and dance that they're going to be a part of more even in New York than they are here. I pronounce that for them. So if you're ready, we'll do a spiritual mind treatment and allow that to be one of our spiritual practices for today, okay? So right here, right now, in this moment, in this seat, in this room, in this very room. We breathe in the presence of those who are here in the room and the presence of those who are here on Zoom. And we know that it is the essence of God that represents that presence. That the divine is in each of us and present with us here today in all of our activities. There is no spot where God is not. And we take in the wonder and the oneness that that phrase implies, that there is no spot where God is not. We are the divine. Each of us is the divine. Everything is of divine creation, divine recreation through God's recreation. In dancing with us in our lives, universal mind, spirit lives its life through us. And I declare that we're giving that universal life a good time. A good time, a beneficial time, a time of service, a time of love. We are spreading the light wherever we go, however we are, with whomever we are, whatever comes our way. We put light to it. Light on our feet, light in our hearts. We preserve that light-hearted, light creation that we are as we dance through this floor of life, this dance floor of life. That it is us as us, through us, around us, and for us. And we dance like nobody's watching, and we sing like nobody's listening. And we play in our hearts with the divine, allowing it to show us, to lead us, to direct our thoughts, to direct our spirit, to direct our steps. And we learn new steps every day. We learn new dance. We learn new song. We open ourselves up to the wonder and the joy that that brings us each day in each way we choose. And with great gratitude and appreciation for all of what we've shared this morning, for what we know to be truth at the spiritual level, for how we understand each of us in our own way what it is to be doing the dance of our life with the divine. And through the great principles that we've been taught by Ernest Holmes. We allow all of that to sink in, to lift us up off the wall of the wallflowers on the dance floor. We go out into the milieu, into life, into the dance of life. We mix with those others on the floor. We watch our movements. We make sure we don't step on other people's toes if we can. But we have a great time. We live in joy. Enjoy every moment. Thanks, thanks, thanks. And I allow these words to step in to the law with me on the dance floor, knowing that as they are spoken, they are the truth. And so it is. Amen. I'll take my candy.
Thank you, Peggy, for those wonderful words that really hit home with me today. So thank you so much, yes. And now we have another wonderful opportunity to hear from Mark and Taylor, if she...
Yes.
Coming.
In light of the message, we've decided to change the piece that we were going to do. She just needs to get her egg shaker, and then she'll be right back.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
yeah. Because it would be more, it's more dancey. So she'll be back in just a second.
Well, it's wonderful that you all are so wonderfully spontaneous about this.
Oh, thank you.
I had thought about talking to you when we got here, but I didn't see you earlier on.
Here she comes. Yay.
Right, that's okay. We. Hello, hello.
So did you say already?
I said we're going to change the song.
Oh, yes, so we were, thank you for that message, and it was very invigorating, and we were initially going to sing right now Edelweiss, which is not really very dancey. And so I told Mark, one of our favorite songs that we've been doing recently is Fly Me to the Moon, which is about being filled with song and is much more danceable. So I asked him if we could just do that one really quick. And so here it is. Fly me to the moon and let me swing among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, will be true. In other words, I love you. In other words, I love you.
Thank you. That was fun. That was a new experience for me, dancing in church. So, thank you very much, Mark and Taylor. So, as we receive our virtual and in-person gifts, we give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We bless these gifts and we know they are multiplied throughout our community. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service and do so on a regular basis for all these months. And so we give great thanks to them, and we thank you for joining us today. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after the service to visit, etc. Please read with me the benediction, and followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty.
Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is.